What's up, bro? I'm Kimberly.
I'm Emma.
I'm Kate.
And we're the Film Bros.
We may not be bros, but we're just as annoying.
We're here to talk about all things film, the industry, and us.
If you like what you hear or see, follow the podcast, like, comment, and subscribe.
You can find us on Instagram at thefilmbros.podcast and on YouTube at thefilmbros.podcast.
You can listen to us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Just search The Film Bros and look for the pink logo.
Lights.
Camera.
Action.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween!
Today is Halloween, and we decided to dress up for the occasion.
Yes.
I think we should all say who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I can go first. I am the kidnapper from Kurosawa's 1963 film High and Low. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
I'm a vampire. And I may be talking funny because I have big fangs in my mouth right now. But I'm committed.
What universe are you from? What vampire universe are you from?
Only because it's been on my mind recently. I'm leaning towards Interview with the Vampire World.
Okay.
I think they're cunty and fierce. And,
No. I think it's a good one to
be.
choose.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I am visually Wendy Darling from the animated Peter Pan movie, but internally Wendy Darling from the live-action Peter Pan movie from 2003.
I feel like this is so indicative of who we are as people. This is beautiful.
I couldn't be happier.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Happy to have you here.
Yay.
Hopefully you're also dressed up as you watch this.
Yeah.
If not, pause, come back.
Come back.
Love your costume.
Yeah.
Share down below.
Oh my god, send photos. Send
Photos of what you're wearing while you watch. Cool. So,
Em, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
Today, we are going to be talking about the origins of horror films. And we're also going to be talking about the rise in franchises in terms of horror films. And then we're going to be talking about horror films of today. And yeah, it's just kind of more like a research-heavy episode. We'll obviously like put our own thoughts in here and there, but it's a lot of research and telling you what we find. This is so weird.
No, you're killing
At
it.
any point, these teeth may fall out, and I will talk like a normal person again. So I
hope they never
apologize
fall
for my
out.
like slight lisp and weirdness. Yeah. Well, I have the origins of film or
Yeah.
horror films.
Let's
so
do it.
take us away.
I'm ready.
let's get into it.
Okay.
So, I think it is in our human nature to tell stories, and obviously we tell a lot of stories about things we can't explain. And I think we also tend to, in our inceptions, tell stories about the dark because that was like a big unknown. And so I think, in essence, all horror films come from telling scary stories, and especially like the passing on stories, like in oral traditions and all that kind of stuff. And then there was Gothic literature, and that was huge in the West. That became really popular. A lot of those tropes inspired. I mean, in essence, also, we have horror films because we have Gothic literature, because we have stories about the dark and oral traditions. But from Gothic literature, when film was in its inception, and notably George Méliès, he took inspiration from Gothic tropes, from the symbols you see, the skeletons, the witches, cauldrons, that kind of stuff. He took that and he made a film, widely considered to be one of the first horror films, called The House of the Devil. And that was in 1896.
Whoa.
And so yeah, that
crazy.
film, it's super old, super well done. I mean, all of his films are like super inventive. So cauldrons, bats, skeletons, ghosts, those were notable among the imagery of that film. And then with the rise of motion pictures, and as more filmmakers began to tell stories, more and more people drew on the same kinds of Gothic literature that he was drawing on. So then in the early 1900s, you get things such as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, one of the earliest adaptations of that, which there are more that I'll talk about. In 1908 was the first one. There's also Frankenstein, The Werewolf, and those are like early experimentations in the world of horror films. Again, largely drawing on literature. And then in the kind of 1920s, 1930s, you get what people call the golden age of horror. That's when you get your Nosferatu, the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. That's a huge one too. And kind of this more like heightened presence of horror films as as popular films at the time. I mean, and Nosferatu is also like
very artistic.
Yes.
I feel like we learned in film school like those are very like abstract looking, like playing with light, like
especially like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, like that's so
oh my
cool.
God.
I mean, like German expressionism, all that kind of stuff, but like you also see during this time too, like what you're saying, like playing with shadows as a way, like the shot in Nosferatu where his hand is like going the shadow along the wall, and like
so good.
You start to see kind of like the play with like light and shadow and framing in this golden age of horror. And I think it shows too, I'll probably talk about this more, but the horror genre in its inception is very inventive, even all the way back to George Méliès. Like, how did he get a skeleton to like pop in and out of the camera? Yeah. And there's like so much room to try new things because you have to show things that aren't normally a part of reality.
Yeah.
And so horror kind of has a history and a tradition of being a creative like playground for filmmakers.
Period.
And then this kind of era, the 1920s to 1930s, films were finally called horror films. They were previously mostly referred to as gothic melodramas.
Oh, I want to go back to that.
I know, I kind of like that.
Gothic melodramas. That's so sexy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a gothic melodrama.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so this kind of like those films create a genre basically. And then with the addition of sound, filmmakers expanded their abilities to creep out audiences, and so you get like the rise of the spooky music, creepy atmosphere, all that kind of stuff, which is also so well known in film now, is like also the sounds you hear. And then where do I go next? Oh yeah, this is kind of what I talked about, but especially with the 1931 version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that film is really inventive because part of that film you see his transformation from Dr. Jekyll into Mr. Hyde on camera. Whoa. And it's in black and white. And they can't do there's no visual effects, there's no cutaways. It's like makeup and lighting tricks where they show, not the whole thing, but part of his transformation on screen.
That's cool.
Which is amazing. Like, that's so cool. Like, and again, like, how inventive do you have to be to figure out, I want to show this 1930s. Faithfully. Yes, and it looks really cool. I didn't watch the whole film, but I watched that scene. No, there it goes. It was kind of bloody. Well, one down. I can rock the one thing. Yeah.
Still sexy, bro.
I feel like I'd be like a mockery of vampires. Like, haha, one thing.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway. So then with this kind of like, this kind of sparked another wave of horror films. And also the rise of horror stars. So you start to see the actors in the films becoming famous for being horror actors.
Yes.
So who do I have? I can't read my own handwriting. Boris Karloff for Frankenstein, notably. There's also Lon Chaney from Phantom of the Opera, and then his son for The Wolfman.
Iconic.
Nepo.
Yeah.
But so
Nepo
it's
baby.
always been there.
It's
always been around.
So I think that's kind of fascinating too. Like, this genre became so popular, you start to see stars like known for their roles in horror films and horror actors, and I think that's kind of cool too.
I know the guy who did Nosferatu was also the original Mummy.
Yeah,
I think that was the same actor too, which is so iconic. Like,
that's
two,
so cool.
two horror movie monsters.
Yeah,
like,
well, he's a spooky looking guy, you know, so he fits the bill.
He's a little creepy.
Yeah,
iconic but creepy.
Iconic but creepy. And then with kind of these new actors starring in these films, they're all, mostly, a lot of them are adaptations of previous horror films. Like, you have another Frankenstein, you have another The Wolfman, you have a Dracula, and then Phantom of the Opera, which again, mostly adaptations of fiction, and then made into films, and then remade in each kind of new era. And then this kind of starts where I didn't delve much into other studios, but Universal Studios in particular is very much known for their like legacy creatures, their legacy horror characters. So that's where you have your Dracula, your Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Wolf Man, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. And
Does Universal have copyright over those?
Universal does not have copyright over these characters and the books themselves, but they're most well known for their creation of them, and also I think for depicting them in the way that we know them today.
Yeah.
The way that Frankenstein looks, Dracula looks, the Mummy, all that kind of stuff.
It's weird to think that someone like originated that.
I know.
And it's just so ingrained into our pop culture now.
Yeah, it really
like
is.
that's what Frankenstein always looks like.
Yeah,
That's what Dracula always looks like.
Because one person did it one time.
That's crazy.
That's kind of fun. But that also shows you like the power of those films is that they have lasted. They've stood the test of time, and we still know them today. And then also something I wanted to circle back to that I got too excited and I skipped forward. But I think what I really admired about the early horror films is that because, again, there's no visual effects, there's not even like a whole lot of prosthetics or production design like in the early days, is that you have to get really inventive about how you capture a feeling on film. And even if when you don't have sound and like George Méliès just playing around with scary imagery, how do you like capture the feeling of being scared or being uncomfortable by what you're seeing, or like this feeling of unease. And I think horror is a really fun genre because you have to be so creative about how you do that. And also, if you are limited in what you do, especially, you know, low budget horror today, like you have to be clever about how you make someone feel the way you want them to feel with the resources that you have.
Totally.
And I think that's like ingrained into the genre, the inventiveness of it, the feeling of it, and kind of as it's evolved, you get all these new ways to like scare people, but you know, that's kind of like always what you're aiming for. It's like to unsettle.
Right.
Yeah. It makes me think weirdly
fun.
of like the Blair Witch Project, because I think that's such a good film in that like it's so indie, so low budget, and it's just like it's like you don't ever see the monster because like they didn't have the money for it. They were just like and for some reason it like unnerves you.
But
Like,
it works.
Like the filmmakers did what you were just saying of like they just wanted to capture this feeling, and they did it so successfully for so low budget. Like it's insane.
I think that's why like a lot of like horror is still so successful, because it comes from such like a scrappy kind of beginning too, and because you're trying to show the impossible, you know, with your everyday things that you have, and I think that's just really fun. So then to get back into it, I guess this kind of like the Universal Studios of it all of those films have gone on to create franchises that are still around today, and then that's kind of where I'll turn it over.
Cool.
To Kimberly.
I had something I wanted to say, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. First, I'll say I feel like horror movies are similar to like sci-fi in a way, where it's so great how much you can play because like you get to build the world. It's like, is this paranormal thing, can it go through walls? Can it not go through walls? Can it read your mind? Is it like omniscient? Like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why people eat it up so much and why it's always been so popular, is just because it capitalizes on like the amazing thing that film can do, which is like transport you to a completely different world. Like
Totally.
you can look at a scary painting and like be scared, but it's kind of just in like this one kind of like hum of a way. But film can really just like lead you through like someone's like descent to like being haunted or like whatever it is, or like becoming the monster, which is why like I love horror films. Like the first films I got into in general were horror films, I think, because it gets like the biggest reaction. Because it's like you're literally making me scared. Like you're like my primal being, the cave woman inside of me is like fight or flight. Like, I'm doing that, I'm looking at a screen.
From
like,
a screen.
It's crazy.
It's so powerful.
And I used to love horror films, and now I'm getting too scared. And I remember being little and being like, I don't get why my mom doesn't like horror movies. Like, they're so cool. Like, I'm never going to be like that. And now, like, we watch a horror movie, and I'm like, oh, I think I have to leave the room. Like,
no.
And I feel like I'm becoming weak, but it's fine. I'm going to work on it. Anyway, so lovely segue. So I'm going to be talking about franchises. Franchises are an obvious thing because the film industry needs money to keep going, and if they find one thing that people like, why not make it again?
Make it again?
Like,
If it ain't broke.
It makes so much sense, but I have some qualms.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna bring up. So the first,
I'm so sorry.
it's okay. Do your thing. So the first documented sequel of a horror movie was The Bride of Frankenstein, 1935, which was a sequel to
Very
Frankenstein,
cool.
1931. So it's cool that this has been going on forever. Like
Yeah.
a part of me was kind of like, oh, it's only like in the recent like past like 30, 40 years that we're trying to like capitalize on audience, but it's always been a thing, and like just like you were saying, like adaptation has always been a thing, you know. So it's understandable that we got into sequels, but then we like took it a step further and we have like franchises now. So The Bride of Frankenstein got good feedback, and people actually liked it a lot more than the original. Oh no, people like sequels. It was also, Frankenstein was the first horror movie franchise with 8 films being made from 1931 to 1948.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. So I did a bit of research into the budget of the film and like the box office success and the audience's perception of it.
Totally.
And a little bit of critics, but critics are gonna critique. So I don't know. So let's see. The trend isn't 100% constant, but like pretty steadily the budget of these Frankenstein films increased, and the box office remained like about the same. So they were putting more into it, but not getting more back.
That's so
Which
interesting.
I think I'm reminded of this thing where like if a toddler's happy, you don't try to make them more happy.
Yeah.
It's like if the audience is happy, like don't overload them. Like you've got us. We're here. Like you don't have to like bombard me. In some instances, The House of Dracula was the first time the budget surpassed $1 million, and yet it's the second lowest grossing film.
Wow.
Which is like, it's just so interesting. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it kind of shows you the flawed logic. Like, we're not here for, it's for you to one-up yourself. We're here because you charmed us the first time.
Right. I'm not going to love it because the budget is giant.
Right.
I'm going to love it because there's characters that I connect with because you're telling me a story.
Yeah. It's interesting that it started so early, and so many studio execs today still don't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, why didn't it work? Why didn't the 8th sequel work?
Exactly. We spent $5 billion on it. It's like, you didn't tell me a good story, dude.
Yeah.
Right,
like,
You're in it for the wrong reason.
Right. I could read, like, a short story that someone wrote me on a napkin, and that could affect me more than a movie with a $500 million budget. Okay, what was next? Oh, I found this interesting. The films in this franchise that did really well were the ones that had original content in it.
That's right.
Either, like, the first time there was, like, a crossover with Abbott and Costello meet Frank. Oh, no, that was the end.
I love that movie.
Okay, there was a crossover episode, or not episode, there's a crossover movie somewhere that did really, really well.
Yeah.
And then the last film in this franchise, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, introduced comedy.
Yeah.
And it was something new and fresh, and it did really, really well.
cool.
Audiences
That's really
loved
fun.
it. And
Already
it did-
parodying itself.
Exactly,
Like, that's
right.
really interesting.
which I think is interesting to kind of acknowledge who
Yeah.
you are. And I feel like it's like treating the audiences as if they're smart, which they are. So since then, there have obviously been a ton of horror movie franchises. The first modern one being The Night of the Living Dead.
That's got a lot of sequels.
Yeah, it's got tons. And then I was kind of like, why do we make franchises? And I thought it was complicated, but then I was like, oh, it's money.
Yeah.
Like, it's money, it's simple. Audiences love, like, the fan service of it all. And you know how, like, sometimes you watch the same movie or show over and over and over again? Like, it's almost comforting. Like, I find comfort... I'm going to go into The Conjuring in a second. We can all yap about that. But, like, I literally find comfort in watching that movie because I'm just being told the same story over and over. And I know what's going to happen. And it's comforting to go back to that and go into the theater and be like, I know that someone's going to get scared, and at the end, the family's going to be happy, or a lot of people are going to die, and it's going to be really, really cool to watch.
Yeah.
Right. In my opinion, I don't have problem with franchises at all.
Period.
I had a Marvel phase.
Yeah.
Like, I think franchises are great. When they're done with proper care.
Yeah.
When there's characters in the story, fully formed people. And it's not just like, oh my gosh, there's the little girl, can't wait to see her get possessed.
Yeah.
Like, when you treat it not like a horror movie, but just like a story. Like,
yeah.
There's plot devices, like, okay, I don't like when there is just plot devices versus like having actual elements of a story. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to look into my favorite horror movie franchise, The Conjuring.
Absolutely.
So The Conjuring, which I've mentioned, is like what got me into horror movies, or just really movies in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then feel free to chime in. Have you seen it yet?
No.
Okay.
That's crazy.
We were planning on seeing it, and then life lifed. But I remember we watched it together, and we were like, it's so good because it's not just trying to scare you, like it is just scary.
Yes.
Do you remember what we were talking about?
Yes, absolutely. It was like, because me and Kimberly watched it recently, and it was just like, it was really refreshing to watch a horror movie that wasn't, it's like that movie's weird because it's like the last one.
Another one out.
That it's weird because that movie does follow a lot of horror movie tropes.
Absolutely.
But like the first one in particular, like we were saying, like there's so many moments where like they could have added like the dun 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 scary music, and they don't. Or like the camera movement could be a little bit more dramatic, but it's not. It's just kind of like following the family like a documentary, and then it's like, oh, these things just happen to be scary to them. And it's beautiful. I also remember we were watching that and we were thinking that like a lot of the scary stuff wasn't happening right in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it's happening in the background, like the clap clap. Like there's a moment where she's like playing a game, the mom, and there's like a demon in like the back corner of the screen. Like it's almost blurry, but it's like one of my favorite scares ever, where like demon hands come out of the closet and like clap back at her. But again, it's like almost blurred because it's so far in the back, but it's like that first one is so special because it's not trying to be like, this is scary.
Yeah.
Like it's just like,
that's like,
this is just happening.
I feel like the downfall of a lot of franchises is that like it does lose that like kind of magic of it. Like at a certain point they're like, well, now we just have to keep scaring people because that's what they're here for.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of, let's tell a scary story, and that's what will keep them in their seats.
Except Final Destination. I could watch...
No. Please no.
I went on a journey this year where I watched every Final Destination movie.
Oh my god.
So good. 10 out of 10 recommend this. The third one's the best one.
I watched the one that came out recently, and I will never watch any other.
The first one and the third one are
bad.
so good, dude.
It's
like
just gross.
Like it knows it's overstayed its welcome, but it's embracing that. You know? It's
That's
beautiful.
fair.
Exactly.
I respect that.
And it's like, I'm not gonna like crap on Final Destination,
For sure.
even though it is like such a franchise, because it's like people like you that love it and eat it up.
Totally.
And I was wondering like, what would make you stop watching?
Yeah.
What would make you be like, that was so bad they've lost the plot?
Well, I think the reason why that the Final Destination franchise works, some of the movies in it don't work, but I think some of them work so well is because like a filmmaker really likes the concept of this and is like, what if I did my own spin on it? You know what I mean? Like there's so many vampire adaptations where it's like, yeah, the idea of vampires are so cool. Let me adapt it in my own way. And I think Final Destination is such a good franchise for that because it's just like the concept is that like death is gonna follow you until it kills you.
Yeah.
Through a really creative way. And it's like you don't have to be married to characters, like you don't have to be married to a country or a place. Like you can do it anywhere. So I think I like Final Destination because it's often given to directors or writers that have fun with it. I think the movies that don't work in that franchise are the ones that are just trying to capitalize off the movie before.
Well, I think that's true of a lot of franchises too. And I was thinking about this with the Alien series, that like if it's like, it doesn't have to be necessarily always like true to the source material. Like I like in the second movie where like in Aliens where you expand on everything, but it's like staying true to the heart of what it's there to do, which I think is probably true of Final Destination, that like filmmakers who like have a good time with it, they know what it's there for. Totally. You know, like you know what purpose it serves in the horror genre. And I think that's true of a lot of franchises too. But like what I dislike about like where the Alien franchise goes is that it starts to like try to one up things instead of expand on, you know. And I think if you're faithful to like what brought people there and what they expect from it, you don't have to like I don't know, get one up on them. You know what I mean? Or like pull a fast one. You know what I'm saying?
I'm totally reminded by the Omen series, which has been around since like the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's like the one where like this couple has a baby, but the baby gets switched out with like the son of the devil.
Oh,
and then like in the original one they like realize he's the devil, and it's like, oh my god. But so that's been a little franchise that's been going on forever. But it was so great because last year, the year before, a director, it was like her debut film. Oh my god, it's such a good movie, where she made a prequel to the first one. And it's like gorgeous. It's beautifully shot. Like, I love it because you could tell she takes it really seriously. And like the film itself is so good because it's like she knows what the rest of the series looks like. She's like, well, it's my turn to do what I think I could do with the series. And like it ends up being the best movie in the series itself. It's so good.
It's like a respect from where we came from, but also I'm trying to do something new.
Yeah.
Something else I have a qualm with is like, I'm not gonna, I don't know. A lot of horror movies have like a certain type of lighting where it's like very low key, very blue, and it's like, I'm not gonna get scared because of that. Like, it just, I'm honestly not even thinking about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you have a chance to actually like do something with it.
Totally.
And you're not. And I think she did that with that film. And that's
So
also what
good.
I love about the first Conjuring movie is like,
So good.
when we're talking about this, the lighting isn't necessarily very scary.
No.
Like, especially not at first. Like, it's kind of just
It's
a
so
beautiful
naturalistic.
movie. Yeah,
It's
so-
crazy.
right. Which is what makes it 10 times scarier because you feel like you are that person. Like, I feel like the scary lighting of a lot of franchise movies today almost makes me feel safer because I'm like, well, this isn't real life.
It's
I know
telling
that.
you this is a horror movie.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. But the Conjuring, I don't know. She's different. She's
gorgeous.
Yeah, this is kind of what we talked about, but like, we know when the scene is built around the gag.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to watch a horror movie and it's like, there's the music and it builds and then it gets silent and you can count to 3 and then you get scared.
Yeah, you know where it's gonna come
Which is, I don't know. Like, some people love that, and some people don't. And it's just like...
Well, I think that's why the genre is often referred to as being very cheap by a lot of critics, because they're like...
It's a formula.
It's a formula.
Yeah.
But, like, every genre has a formula.
Yeah. Oh my
Like-
god, yeah. 100%. Action,
3
rom-com.
act structure. Like, it's
Yes,
right there.
yeah,
All
it's right
of
there.
it is a formula.
Absolutely.
I did another little chart for
Ooh.
for The Conjuring, just purely for me. Like, I have to just adjust my bias that I love The Conjuring.
Yeah, dude.
Which I will say, the Conjuring, the first one, is what got me into movies, but as the movies progressed, it's kind of what got me out of horror movies.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just because I was like,
The cannibalization of it.
right, because
That's
I was
crazy.
just like, I'm getting bored. I know what's gonna happen. So I looked at Saw. I'll go into that, or maybe no. Okay, I'll start with Conjuring. I'll end with Saw. So the first movie had a budget of $20 million, grossed $320 million, and audiences and the critics loved it.
Because it's fire.
Because it's fire. The second one had twice the budget and made just $2 million more than the first one.
Okay, still
Wow.
respectable.
It's
That's
still
very
respectable,
good.
but it's like, you don't need a crazy budget to make a film that people love.
Yeah,
Like,
you made the same amount of money
Exactly.
on half the money you spent.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I just love Ed and Lorraine.
I
I don't
love
care
Ed and
if
Lorraine.
if they were $40 million. Third one also had a $40 million budget and only made $206 million. Audiences, same kind of score. Critics hated it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Was that
The
the
decline.
Devil
The
Made Me
Devil
Do
Made Me
It?
Do It, yeah.
That was the COVID Conjuring movie.
Yeah.
That was the one that it came out and like nobody saw.
Saw it. I remember
Well, that
seeing
makes
it
some
and just
sense,
being
too.
like sad. I was like,
Yeah.
Ed and Lorraine deserve that. And then we go into Annabelle.
Love Annabelle.
The first one was made for $6.5 million,
Oh.
grossed around $260 million.
That's crazy.
That's really good.
Yeah, and for some reason, like, I'm getting my sources from Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences gave it a 36 and the critics gave it a 28.
That is
Wow.
crazy.
But the second one
Annabelle
was made
gas.
for $15 million and like audiences and critics loved it.
Is this Annabelle Comes Home?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
Annabelle Creation.
Annabelle Creation. Ah, okay.
I have Annabelle's Comes Home.
I
which
like
was-
Annabelle Comes Home.
Okay.
That one's fire.
Yeah, that got about the same reviews. But Yeah, and then we have The Nun, which I didn't even see the second one.
Actually, I haven't seen
Okay. And then the main thing that I thought was interesting about Saw, I need to find this trend I found. So, hold on. So, what I found with Saw was the budget consistently went up. Box office stayed about the same.
Oh.
And then there was one instance with Spiral, which was the highest budget next to Saw the Final Chapter. Saw the Final Chapter made $136 million at the box office. Spiral made only $40.6 million at the box office. And I just think it's interesting how the budget went up, but the budget stayed the same. The audience got smaller. Yeah. And I just think what we've seen works is original content, not a crazy budget, because at a certain point, I have never worked with a budget this big, obviously, but at a certain point, I feel like money is just money, and if you're just having it to have it, like, you can make a beautiful story for $300.
Yeah.
You know, that impacts so many people.
Yeah.
Limitations are your best friend.
Right.
Yeah,
so if you're just doing it for the money, you're gonna get return, but are the audiences gonna love it? Are you serving the people?
The only exception is the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Yeah.
That can be made for like $300 million and make twice that. It's so good.
Right. And I would watch it.
I would watch
it every single time.
Well, I don't know.
It's so good.
But like there still should be like the emphasis on story. Like
Right.
you could have a crazy high budget if the story is good enough and it justifies it. But
Totally.
yeah, if you're just going into it for money, you're setting yourself up for failure. Like
Right.
people do care about stories, and you know, some films are a cash grab and you kind of know when it's just gonna like make a lot of money because it will. But I think especially for the horror genre, people are going in for, again, like for the creativity of it, to see something the same but also different. Like it's horror, but like what's gonna be the thing that gets me this time?
Yeah. People love ingenuity in horror.
Like, because they do want to be scared. That's the point. And they want to see a good story, and they want to see it done well, and be successful. And that's really what people want, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I had any clothing thoughts. Okay, I wrote, make your franchises. I love it. I'll go to it. But we, the audience, can tell when it's a cash grab. And then all of a sudden, I don't care about the film as much, and I feel like I wasted my time. And I'm just going to go back and watch The Conjuring again.
Yeah. As you should.
Yeah. Nothing beats originality. That was my closing remark.
Speaking
Hell yeah. of
originality, we're going to talk about my segment today is about quote-unquote elevated horror, which is not a new idea, but I think a new term that's really poppy right now. It's
in the zeitgeist.
It's in the zeitgeist. So let's get into it. So quote-unquote elevated horror, or art horror, is a subgenre of horror that is characterized by atmosphere building, psychological character development, cinematic style, and philosophical themes that work to build tension rather than original jump scares. This term was originally associated with J-horror, or Japanese horror, as Japanese horror movies differentiated themselves during the 1900s from Western horror by focusing on psychological horror, and were often based on folk tales, religion, and yokai, which is a class of supernatural entities and spirits in Japanese folklore. These terms have also been associated with Italian giallo, which around the same time as J-horror, they're more like murder mysteries that still contain a lot of these psychological horror elements. They have some elements associated with like slashers and thrillers and sexploitation films. The genre often involves a mysterious killer that is not revealed until the end of the film, and the genre thrived in the 60s and 70s. So like I said, elevated horror, like horror movies that we now associate with like A24, is not a new thing, but it's just much more popular in America right now. So all this brings us back to our American definitions that have been popularized in the 2010s. Adrian Gemelch, I hope I'm saying that right, A film critic and author defines art horror films that they should evoke fear and dread in both a classical sense and still shock with extreme violence, surrealist imagery, or even absurdist comedic undertones. He explains that the core themes of these movies aren't horror itself, but often stem from a deeper thematic foundation, which the horror elements serve to amplify.
Snaps.
Important to note that him, as well as a lot of film critics and essayists, don't like the term elevated horror, as it implies that these films are superior to the traditional films, which we were just talking about, which a lot of people still love. They usually prefer the term art house horror, as it serves to define these films as simply a subgenre of horror rather than being better than, like I said, traditional horror films. Looking at these new waves of horror films, of art house films, a lot of people argue that films like The Babadook by Jennifer Kent and It Follows, they both came out in 2014, really set the stage for inspiring more and more filmmakers to pursue the horror genre, specifically in America, which has often thought to be a cheaper genre by critics. Like I said, as a vehicle to pursue deeper themes through a more creative lens, which is often only reserved for dramatic films. Following these two films, we had The Witch by Robert Eggers in 2015, who's now a pretty significant art house horror director. And we also had Raw by Giulio Ducournau in 2016, who's like known as like a pioneer in French extremist horror. She did Titan as well, the Car movie, and her new movie Alpha as well. I'm so excited for that. Really excited. However, I think what I really want to talk about today is why art house horror and elevated horror like really blew up, and I think it's solely because of Get Out. I think Get Out changed the genre forever, and I think it's like one of the sole reasons why horror is so big in the mainstream, where usually it was mostly reserved for more of like most horror films usually had a cult following. Like it's pretty rare that it ever hit mainstream and stayed in the mainstream. Get Out's influence on the genre is ginormous. As I said, elevated or art house horror has existed since film itself was invented. And like I just said, like It Follows and The Witch and all these films came out before Get Out. But Get Out was very special because it did two things. It managed to capture both mainstream and critic audiences on a budget of just $4 million.
That's amazing.
Crazy.
That's amazing.
Get Out ended up grossing $255.5 million worldwide.
Damn.
And its opening weekend, it made $33.4 million at the box office, finishing first when it was expected it would only open to about $20 million. At the time, Get Out was the highest grossing debut film based on original screenplay in Hollywood, beating 1999's The Blair Witch Project, which I think is super interesting. Both horror movies, both super tiny budgets. Like what we were just saying, like horror is such a beautiful genre because like you would think you need a lot of money to pull it off, but the best ones are made for nothing. It was immediately deemed like a cultural phenomenon and was the highest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes in 2017.
That's awesome.
Keith Phillips of Uproxx said of Jordan Peele, quote, that he brings the technical skill of a practiced horror master is more of a surprise. The final thrill of Get Out, beyond the slow building sense of danger, the unsettling atmosphere, and the twisty revelation of what's going on, is that Peele's just getting started, which is crazy because like he really was. Scott Mendelson of Forbes also dubbed it a modern American horror classic. This is some tea I really love.
I'm excited.
So Get Out is very famous in that it was also nominated for quite a few Oscars, which we know is very rare for horror movies. At the 90th Oscars, the film earned four nominations, which is like seriously unheard of. It earned Best Picture nomination, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Actor for lead Daniel Kaluuya. The film ended up winning an Oscar, Best Original Screenplay, for Jordan Peele, which is amazing. It was the 6th horror film nominated for Best Picture ever, which is insane.
Wow.
Especially because of just how important this genre is in film history. The first 5 were The Exorcist, Jaws, The Sixth Sense, The Silence of the Lambs, and Black Swan. Something that I found fascinating about Get Out was that apparently it really divided Oscar voters at the time. Many older members of the Academy were dismissing it or choosing not to see it. According to Vulture, new voting members said they ran into quote-unquote interference from more senior members when it came to evaluating the film for Best Picture. Quote, I had multiple conversations with longtime Academy members who were like, that was not an Oscar film, end quote. According to a new voter, quote, honestly, a few of them had not even seen it, and they were saying it so dispelling that kind of thing had been super important. End quote. One anonymous Oscar voter told The Hollywood Reporter they felt alienated by Get Out's Oscar campaign. Quote, instead of focusing on the fact that this is an entertaining little horror movie that made quite a bit of money, they started trying to suggest it had deeper meaning than it does. Well, and as far as I'm concerned, they played the race card, and that really turned me off.
Yep. I was going to say, like, what is the demographic of these Academy members?
And I think it's just
old white people.
Completely. And it's just like, I think it's so silly to say, like, Get Out doesn't have a deeper meaning when the whole freaking point of it is that it does have a deeper meaning. Right.
Yeah. And, like, I feel like that's why why Jordan Peele is such a genius, because he took, like, reality and he made it a horror film. Like, he made it actually... wait, let me get my thoughts together.
No.
He made audiences feel how horrible it actually is.
Yes.
And how,
like, the anxiety, the paranoia
actually
is.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And that had, like, I don't think it had ever been done that effectively before.
No.
And
none whatsoever.
I so get why certain people would, like, turn away from it, because they don't want to acknowledge it.
Yes.
But, like, to actually make it reach a broader audience, like, that's how he did it. To actually spread that message.
I also think
crazy.
Like, I took a horror class, and something we talked about a lot was like this one specific trope in horror films, especially. You see this heavily in the first Candyman film, the original, is that there's a trope of, like, black people kind of pursuing, especially black men, desiring white women. Yes. And you see that, like, the Candyman's, like, the perfect example of this, because he's, like, this villainous, spooky guy, and he's a black man, and he's, like, lusting after this white woman, and he, like, makes her life hell for her because he's, like, haunting her. Yeah. And there's always this, it's like tapping into a fear that society had of, like, black people chasing white people, and especially white women.
Yes.
And I think, I'm not sure that Get Out was the first film to, like, completely, flip that on its head, but I think also for older Academy members to see that trope reversed, it would be like, oh, I'm not used to that. That's not what horror films are. Yes. We're not supposed to be the bad guys. We're the victims in this scenario. Even though, of course, in America and systemically, white people are not the victims, But horror film did kind of, like, cement that as a trope, that white people are the victims of, like, black violence. Yeah. And Get Out completely flipped that.
And I think Get Out is such a good example of horror really thrives when it's parodying itself. Like, when it takes audiences' expectations, even that's existed within its own genre, and flips it on its head. And I think this is such a good example of that.
And I think it's even proving how successful the film was, that it made so many people uncomfortable, because they actually had to confront what the movie was saying. And they hated it, because of course they would, because they were uncomfortable with that.
Like, it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. So all this to say was that Get Out was a huge win for the horror genre in terms of getting critics to take horror more seriously, while also introducing new audiences that might have been reluctant to horror to start seeking out horror films. Because I think a lot of audiences really dismiss horror as just being scary and have nothing to say. When so much of horror, even things that are quote unquote not elevated horror, has something to say. Like The Conjuring has something to say. I think so many horror films have something to say. I found this quote that Jason Blum from Blumhouse said about Jordan Peele that I really, really like. Quote, "The cool kids make horror movies now thanks to Jordan Peele's Get Out. When we started, horror was for weirdos. It was not for mainstream filmmakers. If you were the star directing student at NYU, you were making a movie for Sundance and you wanted Focus Features or Searchlight to buy it. Then you go out in line for an Oscar and make bigger dramatic movies. There were very few 20-year-olds aspiring to make horror movies. The opposite is now true. I credit Jordan Peele with this. Which is crazy. He just said this like 2 weeks ago. And it's 2025.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. It's just so cool to see how one filmmaker can really change a whole genre forever. Now post Get Out, we have a lot of directors and films that are part of this art house genre. Some significant films include Ari Aster's Hereditary and Midsommar, Robert Eggers, who I mentioned, with The Witch. He continues to be a significant director in this genre, as he did The Lighthouse, The Northman, and most recently Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because you started with that, and like it just got remade again.
That's awesome.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Other directors known to live in this genre include Alex Garland, who made films like Annihilation and Men. Jordan Peele continued his legendary run with Us and Nope, which is my personal favorite Peele movie. We have Jane...
Say why.
Well, it was a little bit of a flex. I got to go to the premiere of Nope when it came out,
God.
and it was amazing. But it genuinely is my favorite. But that I might have been biased. Beyond that, we also have Jane Shubrin. I feel bad. I don't know how to say her last name. Sjobernaar. Who made We're All Going to the World's Fair, and I Saw the TV Glow, which was
maybe my favorite.
so good. So good. Zach Kreger with Barbarian, which we all know I love, and Weapons that just came out. Danny and Michael Filippo with Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, which just came out. We got more Oscar buzz for horror films with Coralie Farge's The Substance last year.
Oh my god, amazing.
She also won Best Screenplay for The Substance, I think at Cannes or Venice, one of those two. All this to say, it's cool to see that this genre is thriving and only getting more and more popular. I also want to note that it's not just like Western directors who are propelling horror. Like, as I said, like especially Japanese horror has been making waves since the 60s. Like way scarier, known to be much more scary than Western films, and continue to be.
Oh yeah. And I think a lot of our conversation today is just mainly focusing on Western and specifically like American horror films.
I know it's hard. It's hard not to when.
Yeah.
I think especially when we were in film school. We just did our film school episode. It's very focused on.
But it's also like we would need like 3-4 episodes to cover. I mean, we would need an episode per country for its own, creation of horror films and what it means for that area and all that kind of stuff. Like,
I think
this is kind of what it means for us.
That's why I love horror films. Like, I think not only, like we're saying, like, they get to be so creative and be so much more out of the box than a lot of genres. Like, I personally like them because they say so much about the time they came out in. Again, even if they're not considered art house, like, I know that, like, Night of the Living Dead was thought to be a metaphor for the Cold War, and like, which is crazy because like you look at it and you're like, oh, it's a zombie film, but it's like there's so much more to it, and there's and you look at any country and you look at any of their horror films, and there's always something that's very like underlying between like what the fear is and what the monster is.
It's like it's so much better when a horror movie isn't just being made to scare you. Yeah, it's better and more impactful when it's used as a device to like show how scary society is.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Yeah, and I think you can find that with any country you're looking at. And then what's so great about it is you can watch it and still be scared, even if obviously you're not from there. Just because
absolutely
you will feel scared regardless.
I think it's also so cool to know, especially that during times of political change, as the one we're in, I think that's why art is so important, and especially horror movies, because I think they are a genre that always speaks truth when maybe other genres aren't able to.
Yes, I was gonna say, I think sometimes horror can get away with speaking more openly about the things we're facing today, because it also subverts them so much, you know? Like coming out with like a political drama that's directly stating what we're going through as a country.
Like, okay, I know what it's about.
And also, like, would it even get made in today's society? Like, that becomes a little bit more volatile. But when you have a horror film that is able to kind of like hide it, but also like feed it right to you.
Yeah.
That's when like it can get away with that a little bit more than like
it's such a
like an
flexible
action or
genre.
something.
It's so good. To close out my little segment, I thought I would recommend some of my favorite art house horror to anybody who might just be getting into the genre. Obviously, I think you should watch Get Out. I think it's important to everything I've been saying, and it's also a banging film. A lot of the films I mentioned above, I would definitely recommend, especially Barbarian, because everybody knows I love that. I really want to highlight, again, Danny and Michael Filippo's Talk to Me and Bring Her Back. They're both part of this rising class of, like, YouTubers or filmmakers who are YouTubers that are now making really original and cool horror movies. Like, I know Chris Stuckman's about to come out with Shelby Oaks. And it's just
and the Backrooms
and the Backrooms movie, like I don't know, it's just so
From
cool.
YouTuber.
Yeah, it's cool to see these YouTubers like able to go into the mainstream with horror.
I think the YouTube to horror pipeline is interesting, and then I think there's also been a really interesting comedy to horror pipeline, which I find very fascinating too. That like,
awesome.
And there's like a lot of people don't start off in horror, but like find their way there through other avenues. But I think it's fun that like YouTube and comedy being like, I don't know, like kind of ushering people into like the horror genre.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I just say. I hope people keep watching horror movies. I hope people keep making horror movies, whether they're original or they're the 15th one in a franchise.
Yeah.
I think all are important. All can be interesting. All can be worth making, worth watching.
As long as like you're telling a scary story.
Yeah.
And you're telling, you're trying your best and you're making the attempt to tell a good story too.
Absolutely.
I think that's all I really ask of any film, is that you tell a good story.
Yeah.
Very true. Anything else?
I don't know.
That's all I have.
I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Well, thanks for listening or watching our very research-heavy episode.
Yeah. Let us know if you like these types of episodes.
Yeah. Feels like
I like
I'm in school again.
Tell us your favorite horror movie in the comments.
Yeah. Let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah. Tell us the scariest horror movie you ever watched and you won't watch again.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Those are interesting.
Mine is It Follows.
I love that movie.
I don't need to watch that again. I watched it.
Yeah, no, that's a little freaky.
I don't need to see it again.
Hereditary.
Oh,
yeah, that's kind of bad too.
So many memes about that movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god, no.
Great. Okay, well, have a spooky rest of your day. I hope you're haunted.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Be safe.
Be safe out there.
Bye.